I'm going to talk about this project, F200, and this is just where you show that you got Autopsy working. So in order to do it, you need a Windows machine. So that's why up here, do one of these things. Get a Windows machine somewhere. You can have a local virtual machine running VMware or VirtualBox, or you can put it in the Google Cloud or the Azure Cloud. Somehow you have to have a Windows machine to work with. And it doesn't have to be very big or powerful, because we're not going to do any really big images. There's a couple of extra credit projects that use pretty big images. For real forensic investigations, you need huge hard drives and powerful machines, because a real modern hard drive image is like 500 gigs or a terabyte, and you have to be able to process that amount of data. We're going to use smaller ones in the homework projects, just so students can do them on reasonable home machines. So after you have some kind of Windows going, then you just want to install Autopsy. And this is F200 here. You just go here and download Autopsy. It installs just like everything else. Click, click, click. Put on Autopsy. And when you're done, then you can examine an evidence file. So I've already got a Windows virtual machine running here in VMware. This is a Mac M1, so it's running an ARM processor, but you could still run so this is Windows 11 on ARM. So I should mention, by the way, if you have a ARM Mac, M1, M2, or M3, then go to here, Windows 10 Virtual Machine, and there are special instructions for Mac M1 or M2 users. You have to go different instructions, and you have to get a different version of Windows written for ARM, which you can get, but it's different than the older Intel hardware. Anyway, once you have some version of Windows running, then you can install Autopsy. And this is what it looks like, the picture of a dog with a magnifying glass. And there's an evidence file that you're going to examine for this project called F200, and I bet I've already got it. Let me see. Looks like, there it is, F200. Okay, so I already have the file there. I'm going to just move it to my desktop so we can talk about it. All right, and there it is, F200.E01. Now, the E01 extension is important, and what this is it's from a long extinct program called Expert Witness. People call it the Encase format because Encase uses it, but it's really Expert Witness format. And the file name extension is E01, E02, E03, because if you have floppy drives or thumb drives formatted with the FAT file system, I think FAT16, the largest file you can have is 2 gigabytes. So it breaks the evidence into chunks of only 2 gigabytes and has a whole series of them, E01, E02, E03, because that way you can copy it onto various portable devices. Anyway, this one is much smaller. Like I say, we're only going to use small test files to show that the software is working. So you launch Autopsy, and once you got Autopsy going, let me get to my project, it's here, okay. Then you have to create a case every time. This is a little bit annoying, but you get used to it. It wants you to keep a lot of records of what's going on with your case that would be useful in court later if it was a real case. So you launch Autopsy, it's getting ready. All right. There we are. And it should pop up a box offering to make a new case. There we go. A welcome box. Okay, so I can make a new case. And I'll call it F200. I'll call it Fall 24. All right. And it's going to put it in my documents directory, which is fine. You have to put it somewhere. The first time you make a new case, you have to choose a directory somewhere to use. It can be documents or downloads or anything. Then next. Then it wants you to tell them all sorts of information like the number in the examiner, phone number, and all this jazz, which would matter in a real case. But for what we're doing here, it doesn't matter. I can skip that and finish. And now it takes about 30 seconds to create a case, and a case is just like an empty container to hold the evidence. All it does is label, it's like a folder, so you can find all the evidence. So it prepares a storage location, a database to store this stuff in. But there's no actual evidence in it yet. I haven't added any evidence items. I've just created the case with the label, the information about the case. This used to be a Linux-only product and used to be really hard to use. This Windows version is fantastic and easy. Like, it's like OpenOffice compared to Office. It's like 10 years behind the professional expensive tools, but it's pretty functional now. We can get a lot done, especially for the price of free. So now, you can generate a host name based on a data source name. I'll just say that's fine. This is how you add a data source. I'll let it choose the name, I don't care. Now I'm going to use the data source. Now this is, I think, a disk image. Let me check. Yeah, so disk image, and go to the F200 file. Okay, so this F200 is a disk image. So next, that's what the E01 is. It's a disk image file. And now I select the data source, so I browse, and I put it on my desktop, and there it is, F200.E01. So that's the evidence file. I open that, and now I could change the time zone. If I knew the time zone of the machine that did this, I'm just going to accept Los Angeles as the time zone. And now I can choose what kind of analysis to do on it. It can do all kinds of things, like identify types of files, notice if files have the wrong extension, look for encryption, and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of fancy things it can do, but each one of those takes more time. So at the configure ingest, just click next. I think just the defaults will do for what we're doing here, because this data file is incredibly simple. I just made a folder with a couple files in it and made a very small file, because the only point of this one is to show you got autopsy working. There's nothing interesting in this data. But now it's done, and I can finish. Now it's not really done. It's appeared here, some information about it, but if you look down here, it's now working. It's trying all sorts of analysis. It was doing the Android analyzer, and it might be doing other things. But anyway, now it's done because there's really not much in this database. So now you go here, you can just browse through the data. There's file types. You can go by extension. It'll tell you there are 2 images, and in documents, there is 1 text file. That's all there are, is 2 images and a text file here. So you click the images, and it will show you little images here. You can click that one, and it should show you more information down here. Yep, there's the dog. And there's another one here, and there's a text file. If you go down here and look at the text file, it says hello.txt, and when you click it, it will show you the contents of the file down here. This file just says hello world. So there's just a couple of files, and of course, so all you got to do is reach this point, and now you have to find the flag. And one of those files contains a flag image. This shows you the hello.txt. One thing a lot of students do is turn in this image, and that's not it. You got to find the flag. There's only 3 files. One of them has a visible flag, and you find it here. So that's all you do for this project, is find that, and then you turn in the screen image that shows that you found the flag. There's going to be an obvious flag that says the flag is something. And once you find it, take a screen image of it, and you turn it in Canvas. So let me point out the process for all these projects. You go here, here's the process, and you go into the Canvas, which is here, and you might as well go to Modules, and that should have the project here. So here's F200, that's the demo, and here's where you turn it in, F200. You go here and start the process. There should be a start button somewhere. Yeah, oh, because I'm not in student view, okay. If I was a student, there, now you see a start assignment, and then you just upload the image and you type in the flag. You find flag will just be a word to show that you found it. And that's it for this one. Real easy, you're not using into any depth of anything, it just shows you got Windows working and you got autopsy working. And the later projects, we're going to analyze data that's somewhat more interesting than this. So that's the autopsy project I wanted to show you. Let me stop the recording.